something amazing just happened. As I was made aware of my scouts out here, there was a truckload of high-end Minecraft machines coming into town. Naturally, I did what everybody in my position would have. I went to the nearest underground Chinese restaurant and I sold my kidney. And now look at this majestic, completely overpriced, soul-sucking piece of hardware. Yes, I now have an Asus RTX 3090Ti Tuf graphics card at my disposal, and I lost half a kilogram in the process. But with every other YouTube channel already having milked the 3090Ti to death, let's very quickly use it in its intended purpose. Oh yeah. So this is the Asus RTX 3090 Tuf, a graphics card which could use its own electric meter. But let's start at the beginning. Once unboxed, we will get greeted with another box of carton reminding us that the fortune we just spent on this was put to good use. And here it is, the golden goose of GPUs, the creme de la creme, the 3090 Ti. To say that this sucker is a big ass card would be the understatement of the year. Being around 325mm long is already a chunk to swallow, but the 140mm depth are the ones that made me realize that from now on I need to include that metric in the case review. Then to make things even crazier, we've got a 3.2 slot height. And no matter how I try to describe it, it is close to impossible to put into words how freakishly big this freaking card is. Even compared to my Gainward Phoenix 2080 Ti, which I already believe to be enormous, this thing is just, it's the daddy of everything. But a big daddy also needs a big power supply. If you listen to Asus themselves, they recommend to go with a 1000 watts power supply. Minimum. 1000 watts, a kilowatt worth of cobblestone mining machine. Of course, that's for the whole system. The kidney will probably burn something around 450 watts, but still. If you keep in mind that a 8-pin PCIe cable can push only up to 150 watts per spec, you quickly realize that you need something new and bigger. Meet the NVIDIA PCIe, whatever its actual name is, power plug. And cause most PSUs do not come with such a thing, meet the NVIDIA Hentai Tentacle Adapter. With this thing we can hook up to 3 PCIe 8-pin cables to use the single NVIDIA 16-pin and run the whole thing on this thing that I can only describe as being hideous. Yes, I am absolutely not a fan of this thing, and I did not spend hundreds of euros on nice looking cables just to destroy the whole thing with whatever you want to call this freaking content. But before we start crying around, Cablemod is already here. In their configurator we can now choose a GPU 16-pin cable and make the whole thing look nice again. And yes, I have a bunch of cables incoming, so you can expect a whole bunch of really nice looking builds in the near future. But now let's get to the important stuff, the reason why we go for an Asus card of this caliber. The Asus graphics card trading card game. I have no idea why a 3060 Ti has 3.5 stars and a 3090 Ti only has 3. That really doesn't make a lot of sense for me. I do not understand the game or the purpose of this card. You've probably seen the headlines where people were wearing like Pokemon cards that were worth a couple of bucks around their neck. Well, I'm going to flex the shit out of this card, that I can guarantee you. Who needs like $1 million of a Charizard if you have like a 3-star tough gaming card? Let's now finally get to the actual card. On both sides, the new 3090 Tuf features the tried and tested Tuf design, a bunch of incisions, some edges, sharp corners, and of course the same robo-erotic graphics. The whole thing is accompanied by a gunmetal colored outer, let's call it a shell, and a bit of necessary RGB that President Biden declared as a requirement during his last speech. The reason why I call the whole aesthetic like outer piece a shell is because that thing is made out of plastic, or this is aluminum painted with like 2 millimeters worth of paint. But as long as there is no like bare aluminum or whatever metal exposed, the heat transportation properties of this are basically zero, so it's really useless. Don't fall. Ignoring the plastic, the cooling is still impressive. Underneath all of that plastic we will find one of the most impressive GPU heatsinks I have ever seen. Unfortunately for this video I will not be taking the card apart, for now, as I am, the master of losing the GPU screws, and I want to wait until the water block arrives before I do anything nasty with the card. The heart of the cooling are the improved axial fans that ASUS slaps onto everything nowadays. But instead of just brute forcing, the engineers at ASUS actually sat down and tried things. While the outer two fans are spinning in a counterclockwise direction, the central fan is spinning clockwise. This can remove turbulences created in front and behind the fans. Additionally to that, each fan got a fan stop built-in as soon as the GPU falls underneath 50 degrees C, which is still kinda hot, mind you, but the fans will stop spinning and we can all enjoy a moment of silence. Another cool little aspect, and absolutely not borrowed straight from Nvidia's reference design, is the little extra air outlet on the top side of the card. Similarly to what the reference RTX 3000 cards are doing, this one is also blasting some air through the top plate and then up into the system. Something that actually makes kind of sense instead of just hitting the PCB with air and hoping that it somehow escapes the case. But if you don't know how the whole cooling sounds like, here is a 4Mark 1080p 8x MSAA stress test once the temperature settled. And what you've just heard is 61 degrees C, so the fans are spinning at quite minimum. And here is what it sounds like if I give the fans cocaine. So although the card is burning up enough resources so that your local government may need to set up another nuclear power plant, at least the cooling system is capable of keeping it cool. But in case you prefer a card to be a bit quieter at the cost of a couple of degrees C, you can also switch the mode to Q mode and enjoy the silence. And before anybody gets it wrong, the performance and quiet modes have nothing to do with actual performance. This little switch just regulates how aggressive the fan curve will be. No extra FPS just because you performed a 1.7 second long task. Now before we end this video, this is still a GPU and the only thing we have not talked about yet is actual game performance. Except for Minecraft. Yes, the card is capable of running a trillion FPS Minecraft, that's impressive. Let's see how other benchmarks turned out. So yes, this is a freaking monster, of course it is, and no, I do not have a 4K monitor available to do benchmarks on, which is very unfortunate because that way I'm not able to, squeeze everything out of this card. A card which is definitely not built for 1080p performance, but like for 25K performance. In the end, it got 24 gigs of GDDR6X memory. It got 336 tensor cores, 84 T cores. However, even if it got the GeForce name glued onto it, it is not a gaming GPU. Truth is, going from a 3080 Ti up to a regular 3090 gives you a single digit amount of FPS more. From there going up another step to a 3090 Ti is basically the same thing, except for power consumption. That shit's freaking exponential. So although it's a freaking monster, those 24 gigs of memory are built for things like 3D rendering, editing, Minecraft, the heavy stuff. But okay, this should be about it for the ASUS Tuf 3090 Ti and every other keyword on the planet. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will now proceed with squishing this fat boy into as many builds as I can in the following weeks, testing performance with different CPUs and getting more and more annoyed about the fact that I don't have a 4K monitor available. How exciting. But if you want to keep watching, have a look at our take on the ASUS RTX 3060 Ti. After all, it got 3.5 stars, which means something, it's better. And if you want to join our Discord server and help me out with an actual use case for a 3090 Ti, the links are in the description below. Anyway, thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.